So we've been talking about next year and last year and how we all got to be doing what we're doing. But one thing I did want to ask you to, while you're both together, if this is the only time we ever end up in the same place together, is the I Know You from the Carried Away video. So this was the video on Vanity Project, which is like a 6, 7 minute motion picture, I believe. How did that happen and whose idea was it?
It was also by committee, actually. But yeah, it was sort of like, honestly, throwing some arrows at a moving target and working with people who I respect a lot who were able to like endure the moving target of me and working on a really low budget with some of my best friends and pulling together something fun. I love it. I still love watching it and like reliving those moments. It was the first time that Ellie and I got to do something creative together. We'd obviously been fans of each other's work, but we'd not gotten to do something together. And now there will be more coming for you. But yeah, that was a blast. Moss Flower Pictures shot it. This New Century helped me produce it. We had a great crew.
Yeah, there was four of you, I seem to remember, and I sort of half know all of you now, which is a bit strange to admit. But it's not your real house.
I wish. No, that is I don't believe I can say whose home it is, but it is a Memphis creative who owns that home and very kindly let us shoot there. I was like, here's $300 for the maid. I'm so sorry.
You trashed the house.
I don't know if it was like a trashed situation, but that, it was so music videos shoots can be a little stressful, especially like when you're like the people that are in them are also the ones producing them and like doing all, just a little hectic, but yeah, they still let me come back there, so that's okay.
So whose voice is it on that voicemail at the end?
Oh, so
Who
glad
is
you
that?
asked. There is a singer-songwriter and known these days almost more for her songwriting for other people because she's been so insanely successful. But her name is Emily Reed, and she is one of my best friends. And she moved from Los Angeles to Nashville this year. And she actually just won a huge award this week. I think, is it the CMAs that are this week or one of the country awards? I've honestly lost the plot, but she won a huge award this week for a song she wrote with an artist that I think Ellie is actually sort of sideways related to. So it's a funny little melting pot how we're all adjacent to one another. But yeah, Emily Reed, very funny friend. I think that message came in at like peak heartbreak season for me. So if I recall, the main point she was drilling in was that she didn't really care about creative concept of the video, but like her advice was just make out with a super smoking guy at the end of it and ride off into the sunset. I think like I was asking for like, what do you see? What's the vision? And she was like, long brown hair, blue eyes. I'm like, no, like what's the, and she's like, doesn't matter. I had to go on the video. It was a necessary bit of content.
And you're doing all kinds of weird things. You're putting records in the oven.
There's a little, you've got dark British humor. You know what we're saying.
Did you do all of that in one day? Or
Yeah.
wow, that's a lot of work. It's a long. We'll link to it in the show notes, but it's a long old video.
Yeah. When you're like DIYing, budgets are typically like you have an 8-hour day. So that includes any outfit changes, any lunch breaks, all of that kind of works into that 8-hour day. Granted, Luke Harvey of Moss Flower has always been so beyond generous with his time. But yeah, we shot that thing, started in the morning, about 7 a.m. and finished by, I don't know, 7 p.m.
And it's dark at the end, and you're driving around and picking people up in the car. It's quite a lot going on for an independent music video.
Right. A lot going on. What car were we driving? The red Cadillac? In that video, I've forgotten at this point. Was that John Prine's car that we were driving in the video?
I don't know.
Yeah. Are you familiar with John Prine, the songwriter?
Yeah, even I've heard of him.
Okay.
I didn't know that that was his car if it was.
Well, it's funny that I can't now remember what car we used in the video. Does that mean that rock and roll is getting to me? I can't remember anything, but I'm pretty sure that's the vehicle. You can change it in the fact check if not. But yeah, I have a couple photo shoots that I've done with that car as well. But yeah, we were having a good old time. So many crazy things happened in that video shoot. Like we're like on a tight timeline. And also like we found someone's missing dog in the middle of the shoot and we're all in like head to toe weird Steve's garb. And we're like trying to rescue this dog in this random neighborhood.
We also almost got kidnapped.
Yeah, we did almost get kidnapped.
How did you forget to mention that?
Trauma block.
To be fair, we were walking around at this dressed like prostitutes. And so I don't know that they were actually trying to kidnap us. I think they just thought we were working and were asking if we wanted to go home with them. And
we should be honored.
Hey, and me and Cyrena were like, no, hide.
I can't believe he didn't use that piece of footage.
Luke was hiding as well, I think. He was not shooting during that time. We were all
He was
just,
hiding his camera. We weren't sure what was going down. Anyways, this is bad PR for Memphis, but Memphis is a
oh
great
yeah,
place.
sorry.
Yeah.
Scratch
Well,
that.
Yeah.
Great link. I've got some questions about Memphis. But before we move on to Memphis, you've also done another video recently, a video segment where you're all suited and booted and looking like men, I seem to remember. Which song was that for? The Robert
Yeah.
Palmer kind of look to it.
And it's for a song called Best Behavior.
Oh, thank goodness. I've been waiting for that one. That is such a cool song.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, the second verse says, strung out princesses in cages, starving to be seen, while pinstripe posers post their wages. It's so fucking cheap. And so we showed up dressed as dudes, just like pounding on tables, and draw your own conclusions there. We're keeping it light. Last episode was heavy. We're keeping it light. But yeah, I'm really excited.
Cyrena Wages dressed as a man. It's a different vibe. We're all dying laughing. We're like, wow, okay, ma'am. Like, perhaps you should don a suit more often. Like, she was something.
It feels good.
She likes the suit.
I do. I do like it. I feel comfortable. It is comfortable.
So people can see this on TikTok and Instagram. It's all there, the little clips and stuff. So I've seen that. And yeah, you look like you're having a blast.
I'd also like to say that the Carried Away video was the first time I have ever done anything like that. Like that's the low budget part of it. I am the low budget part. That straight is like, hey, can you work for free? And I'm like, absolutely. I'm gonna ruin your thing though. And she's like, nah, you got it. And it was the most fun day ever. But yeah, now I'm like, if you ever do a video without me, I'm gonna be sad because I want to be the friend that you call when you need
a video shooting. Yeah.
It was like, hey, I'm gonna put you on screen all day long. I'm not really explaining what we're doing. Just show up. And Ellie's like, what? I don't know. I feel like you went through like this really interesting metamorphosis.
I did. That was like a profound experience for me in terms of like confidence. And I think just sort of getting to have this sort of, I am not being like dramatic. Well, no, it is dramatic, hyperbolic maybe. To say that it was like a dream come true feeling, because when I was little, all I wanted to do was like be in music videos, or I watched all of that the whole time. And I was like, this is so fun. I just want to play dress up and make a movie, make a video. I just felt famous and it was so fun.
It looked great. Yeah. You felt like you were we were talking about housewives and we call them stay-at-home mums, don't you? We call them housewives. But the trad wife is a label I've heard this year that is not really a thing here, or if it is, it's a Gen Z thing. But you were basically all pretending to be housewives in that video, in a way, cooking and
especially in that
cool.
Scene.
Yeah,
but it was sort of like a wink at the idea of a housewife, in that we had pilled out eyes, but yet we turned around to bring our records out of the oven. We're full of complexities, and we are so many things at the same time, and that's okay. And it's fun to like poke fun at the ways in which these characters are regressive. And it's also fun to poke fun at the ways in which they show up in ourselves and our essences and moments, and all that can be okay, in my mind.
We're all really complicated.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about Memphis. So Ellie, are you Memphis born and bred? Have you always lived there?
No, Chattanooga. My husband's from Memphis. So I've been here for 15, almost 16 years. I feel like it's settled. I really love that. Took me a while, I think, just because my whole family, my brothers and their families live in Chattanooga. And I think it's taken raising my own kids here, and just as they've gotten older, just seeing or just really valuing what this place has to offer in terms of it's just such a unique place to grow up. I just feel really grateful that we get to raise them here. So yeah, I love Chattanooga. There are so many really neat things about it. And my husband always joke, because when we first got married and had wedding parties, and people would say, you're moving to Memphis? Why would you move to Memphis? I didn't realize it. He's like, people in Chattanooga are so snobby about Memphis. And I would get all offended. And now I'll hear people make comments and I'm like, oh my God, we are. Like, Chattanooga people are snobs about Memphis. And it is so unnecessary.
It is, because the only reason we know about Memphis is because of Elvis. That's the only thing we can get our heads around when we think of Memphis. So nobody's ever heard of Chattanooga or wherever the hell that is. So you could tell your your friends that they haven't really made it onto the radar of other people.
There you go. There you go.
But we're doing about Elvis, and I got some Halloween Elvis costumes going around the Wages house. But what is about Elvis? Do you feel like you must be proud of that history? What's modern Memphis like? How has it changed in the last 50, 60 years?
To your point, something I have said, maybe even to you before, is that we've done a good job of exporting our music history, but not exporting our music industry that is present. And so there are a lot of organizations, Music Export Memphis being one of them, who are working to change that. But the city, the sound of the city, the young folks in the city are young in age and old in spirit, which is a Memphis thing. But like these kids that grew up like playing and singing in the church in particular, like those I think are the gods of the new wave of Memphis music. And they're really the gods of music history as well. But like really paying attention to these young singers and players and the perspective and narrative that they have and like how specific it is to this place that we're in. Like that's what I look forward to seeing more of in the future. It's what I hope for living in Nashville and seeing what the industry looks like there. And then having my toe a little bit in the pond of what the industry looks like in LA. It's way more industrial, to use the same word again, but I can't think of a better way to say it. Like there's a much more well-oiled machine. The downside of that machine is that it loses so much of its grit and soul at times. And I think that Memphis has a thing that nowhere else in the world can recreate. And I just hope with the organizations that are working to make this happen, like it gets to become a player with the other big dogs, not just for our history, but for our future. And I think it's possible, but it's different. It's a really relevant question that you asked.
I sense that something's happening there. You've talked in the summer about WYXR radio, and you've recorded at Southern Grooves, and there's Crosstown Arts, and there's things happening, but I am writing a lot about the 60s in London and music industry. And when you talk about Memphis there and compare it to Nashville and LA, the music industry in the 60s was very much a homemade thing. It was almost like they were inventing an industry as they went along. And everything was much more natural and made up. There was no real industry there. They were literally inventing it one day at a time with the Beatles and so on. It feels like Memphis is still quite creative and quite, would you say it's kind of more indie, more niche, or are they trying to be more commercial?
Not trying to be more commercial. I don't know what they're trying to be here other than real. I think maybe an underbelly. There's not enough resources here to take that raw good and turn it into something that makes money and gets heard on the stage it should be heard on. And I say that not because I think that that's what it's about, but I also see some of the most talented people living around me that I've ever seen in real life. And I know that they aren't being worshipped for their art the way they could be. So I don't know. It's a really weird thing. Like, do you leave and go to one of these big cities where you might have more opportunities, but where the soul might get washed off of you? Or do you stay here and find a way to find those opportunities while being based here? I mean, that's what I've chosen to do. Jury's still out. I obviously don't have it figured out.
There's so many different ways to do it. I often spend a lot of time talking to US musicians and saying, you know, you would be very popular in the UK, even if only because you're so different to what we hear and our music here. So Lily Allen's music is a big thing at the moment, that new album, right? But
West End Girl has changed my life.
But to us, Lily Allen's just this girl who lives in West London and 20 miles away, and she's like all the other girls in West London, right?
So funny.
And yet
It's popping off here.
she really is. And then
Crazy.
Florence has just got a new album out. But these are people we hear all day, all night long, all through our childhood and so on. Lily Allen's dad is a famous actor, and he was massive in the 90s. So they're people we're used to, whereas
Yeah.
you guys are like quite different. You know, the sound, the looks, all quite different. And as we get ready for another Beatles re-release on Thanksgiving next week, they're re-releasing that anthology series. I think you guys like the Beatles and the Stones and Fleetwood Mac because they were different to what you've got.
there is something to that too. Like when I left Nashville and moved back to Memphis, I figured out how to make it in Nashville. And I say that really loosely. Like I haven't made it anywhere, quote unquote. But I figured out how to get my foot in the door in Nashville once I left. There's another dear friend of mine who was making country. She's from Canada. She's living in Nashville. She was making country records in Nashville. She moved to LA because her husband really needed to be out there. And all of a sudden she got pretty famous for country music while living in LA. Just doing the same stuff that she'd always been doing. And it wasn't just because you could hear her better because it was, I don't think it was just because you could hear her better because it was in a different pool. I don't know what it is. Is it like a law of attraction thing or like a push-pull magnetism or something? Like when you get outside the echo chamber, can you hear yourself better? I don't know.
Yeah, you stand out more. So we had, you know, Hannah Juanita and Mose Wilson a little bit, I think, and we had them here a couple of months ago. They said this, so they don't mind me saying, they were late for the show and they'd hired these Lime bikes to get there. And she was in full cowboy, cowgirl outfit and people were screaming at them in the street going, yeehaw. And they enjoyed it, but you probably wouldn't get that if you were riding a bike in Nashville, would you? They'd be like all the other people in cowboy outfits and nudie suits. But they were the only people in London that day dressed like that. And they turned heads, stopped traffic, everything. There is something about the new, especially in culture, right? The new thing is the exciting thing. You know,
that comment brings it full circle to like what we talked about in what I think will be edited in the last episode. But to bring it back to like sharing a perspective amongst a sea of people who don't see it that way, you know, or I don't know, just sort of like courage feels like a lame way to put it, but like the audacity to say something that's not the status quo, or to make something, or to wear something, or to choose a career path that's not the status quo. I mean, I think, isn't everyone looking to find someone who's doing something larger than what they feel capable of doing at the time? Like, you mentioned Elvis a minute ago. Like, why are we all obsessed with Elvis? Like, because he came out in a fucking sequined suit, shaking his butt and singing music that sounded like black people and white people at the same time. Nobody was doing that. You know, the radio show that he got played on was the first radio show that black people and white people were being played at the same time. Like, it was like terrifying and awesome and like cue groundbreakingness.
It's hard to remember that now. We see Elvis and we think, oh yeah, that's just this guy, you know, he's Elvis or whatever. We just thought everybody in Memphis dressed like that. Is that not the case? But it's not just the music though, is it? What you said there is it's how he dresses. We were talking about the leopard print coats that you want me to wear and all that stuff last time. He looks different, he sounds different, and also the interviews and the way he talks about the world and thinks of, and he's in movies as well, of course, he's a film star. He kind of does everything. It's more than just a song though, isn't it? It's a whole lifestyle he's putting out there.
Yeah, I'm drawn to that. I don't know if you guys are, you know. I'm certainly drawn to icons.
He's still iconic. We're still talking about the guy now, which is amazing, really.
We also can't, you know, talk about Memphis and talk about Elvis without talking about all of the greats that he learned from, borrowed from. You might have some perspectives that even say stole from, right? Which is a fair part of the narrative. I don't know. I'm not a historian and I can't spell it out properly in a way that I could stand behind. But there's a lot of like black music that Elvis could have never existed without studying the hell out of that stuff, you know, growing up in church and without having producers that knew how to go, wait a second, you got to do the way the real dudes do it. Like you got to do it like this. This is the way it needs to be done, and sort of feeding him that musical education.
I've been reading about just that because of the Fleetwood Mac connection. So I'm working on the original Fleetwood Mac right now. So this is like the 60s Fleetwood Mac. And those guys then, way before California, were consciously copying the blues. And some of those guys that they copied had moved from your area, had moved from the Mississippi Delta where the blues famously started. And they'd just started arriving in Chicago. So we talk about Chicago blues now, but really it's Mississippi black blues. And they were nervous. The Fleetwood Mac white boys were nervous that they, even in the 60s, they felt like they were copying and trying to make money out of somebody else's culture.
Yeah.
And some of them were criticized for just copying something that's quite authentic. And they call about the bluesmen, and they refer to them as bluesmen who, again, they're not just singing a song. They live the blues from the moment they wake up till the moment they go to sleep, when they dream the blues. It's a lifestyle. It's a religion, actually. We were talking about religion earlier. It's more than just a tune. Where to Fleetwood Mac, it was just a tune and they were copying.
It makes me think of something that we've talked about Joe Restivo before on this podcast. One of the smartest people I've ever met in my life.
He's cool.
But something he said the other night, I played a show at Hernando's Hideaway in Memphis, which is somewhere where Elvis and Cash and all of them played back in the day, and where actually Ellie's daughter will be performing here in a few weeks. Which
wow.
Well, but really cool honky tonk. Hannah Juanita played there the night after I did, and Moses played there too. But I was playing a song by Jimmy Rogers, and Jimmy Rogers is like a really early country folk songwriter, singer. And Joe let me know that when he died, they wrote bluesman on his obituary because there was no name for country music yet. Wow. It's interesting to write on what you just said. It was about that suffering that was tapestry of his like musical identity that was shared, and also just like the grit and honesty of the songs he was singing and how that was called bluesman before there was another name for it. I think it's so interesting.
It is. I love learning about that stuff, partly because it's so different, but also when you get back to the 50s, you get back to the roots of these types of music and where they all overlap. So you were saying country didn't really exist back then. It was just blues. Jazz was kind of in more New Orleans, but it was still in the set. It was all black music. Rock and roll, it's all black music. And it's gradually developed and moved forward and become more commercial. Although jazz never really got as commercial, maybe because it's mainly instrumental. I talk a lot as well at the moment about, I feel like an instrumental is kind of missing something. Whereas back in the 50s, instrumentals were perfectly fine. And people recorded albums with maybe half singing and half instrumentals. And that was perfectly okay. If you did that today, people would think you'd kind of like taken a shortcut and shortchanged them somehow. It's all going back to those Mississippi Delta days. So Memphis, it seems pretty exciting to me as somebody who's never been there.
Ellie and I need to conjure up some kind of thing. We haven't even talked about this, but is there a way to create an event that we both care about that also uses our art forms as part of the draw to make the event production happen? You know, is there a way to like, basically I'm creating a reason for you to come here, Paul.
We'll find a reason somehow. You made me think then of something that Lola Kirk's doing next year, where she's got the book about her life, the memoir, which is Ellie's kind of thing. And then she's got her Trailblazer album, which is about her life as well. And what she's doing next year is a live night where she reads from the book a bit and sings the songs in and swaps between, yeah?
There you go.
So you could do all of that.
Are you allowed to share like the premise of your book, or do you have any interest in even doing that?
Who's holding me back? My agent, my manager, my publisher? No. Well, I feel like it's kind of just what we've already talked about on the other part.
But you could do readings from your book or your novel, life story, memoir thing. And then they're probably going to be as your 20s, I'm guessing it might be a bit like Serena's 20s anyway. She can sing in between.
There you go. Make it happen.
It might work.
I think it would definitely work.
There's ways, I was thinking about this on the walk this afternoon, is as a writer, there's very few opportunities to actually physically get out there, especially before the book's published. The only thing you can do really, if you've got a book, you can do a book signing, but if you haven't got a book, you can read stuff out, almost like performance poetry, but prose. So if you could find a musician who was willing to sing in between your readings, and you could invite other writers down as well.
Yeah, I did a reading a few years ago and I was so nervous. And it was one of the coolest events. It was an art show. So paintings and sketches and all of these kinds of things. And then she just worked in a little time for me to do a reading with it. And I thought, this is going to be so strange. And who am I to go do any kind of reading? I'm not even published, but it was one of the most really fulfilling experiences. So I'm into it. Let's do it, Cyrena. You can just have me do a little reading at your next concert.
Yeah, I want to workshop how to make that happen. That could be really cool. It's completely half-baked, or quarter-baked.
It's a starting point. I think a daytime thing, though. At a night, you don't want people dancing and getting too excited and then having to listen. So I know it'd be quite daunting for me to read out something in that environment, but where the music's kind of more in the background, it might work.
I like it.
So thank you to Cyrena Wages again. And it's so nice to meet you, Ellie Norris. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. Nice to meet you and chat to you and spend time with you as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. So nice to meet you.